Hey Yogi, welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. If you're new, I'm Ree. This is Burley, who you may be able to see. I think she's in shot. If you are returning, this isn't going to be what you're used to. So I'm not going to put this out on a Friday, because obviously every Friday I put out a new class, a new yoga class. I'm just going to throw this one out as an addition, because this isn't going to be a class. This is just a little chat where I'm just going to cover some of the things that I've learned in terms of tips or things to avoid in starting a YouTube channel as a yoga teacher. So I was asked to put this out by a couple of friends mainly, and a few people on Instagram who are yoga teachers that want to teach on YouTube. And you know, there's not a lot of resources out there for how to get started, or hints and tips. Or at least I couldn't find a lot when I was starting out. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. There are so many videos on this platform about how to be like a vlogger or a gamer, or how to like do a podcast on YouTube. But there's just not a lot, I don't think, on like how to set up a movement practice channel where your niche is very, very prescriptive. Like it's you teaching something, you educating people on something, whether that's yoga, Pilates, you know, whatever it is. So that's what this video is going to be about. So if that sounds like something that you want to hear, I'm going to run through I actually have, because I ramble, my iPad with some notes. So I'm going to try and stick to these notes. So I'm going to talk about setup, equipment, the length and style, and then subscribers and like how to maintain that. So if that sounds like something you want, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you are looking for more yoga classes. But yeah, this is probably just going to be a one-off. Okay, so first, setup. So you'll have to set up your YouTube channel. You'll need a Google account. I will put some cards above, and I'll link in the description box like some people that describe this way better than I will. But one of the things I just wanted to mention on this topic is your name and your image. They are just going to be, the image you can change, like your profile picture, but your name, once you choose that on YouTube, you are with that like for life, I think. So I would really just consider that, like, so if you have a big presence on other social platforms, like, you know, Instagram or Pinterest or TikTok or whatever, I would try to keep the same naming convention. So I'm Riri's Yoga channel on YouTube, which is why I set up Riri's Yoga channel as my Instagram page, so that the two would be the same. And if I were to set up a TikTok account, that's what I would do. I would call them the same. So that just helps your existing community, wherever they interact with you off YouTube, to find you. So just think about that. I'll put it in the description box below, some like setup hints and tips that other people have done, which is not about being a yoga teacher. It's just literally about setting up your channel. In terms of your setup, like this is my setup. Those of you that have, you know, practiced with me on YouTube before or have seen me on YouTube before know it's a fairly simple setup. It's actually the back end of my home. So you don't need to go anywhere fancy. I spent so much time stressing about like the setup and the background, and this radiator, which you may or may not be able to see in this shot, but you can definitely see it when I'm teaching, it really freaked me out. Like for the first few classes, kept saying to my boyfriend, like, oh, you can see the radiator, it's doing my head in. It really doesn't matter. If the radiator was like multicolored and distracting, then maybe, but it's just white, it just blends in with the room. So I think for me personally, a simple-ish background, you know, white, magnolia, or just plain, is going to just be easier so that you're front and center on your videos, which is the important thing. If you don't have an area in the house that's like available to be decluttered and you teach at a studio, I would consider asking the studio if they'd mind whether you use the space to film there. So both of the studios I teach at, they would be more than happy with me doing that, but I tend to just bulk film, so I do all of that at home, and this is, you know, a pretty vanilla background. You can personalize it, so I've got some plants because that kind of just reflects me. And obviously I teach always with my dogs with me, but you know, you don't have to have a pet to teach, and they don't have to be with you. Like my dogs are used to being with me all the time, this one in particular when I do yoga. So it kind of feels natural for me to actually teach with her with me, because she pretty much is with me whenever I'm on the mat. If your dog is, you know, younger, or you have animals or things like that, and they're not used to it, then I think just don't force it. Don't try and make them sit with you. Often Burley will start a class with me, and then like halfway through you'll see her walk off and she'll go to a different room, go to bed somewhere else. So in terms of your background, I think clean and simple is the key. Like that's what I would recommend. And if that's really hard for you to achieve, consider using the studio space that you already teach at, if you do teach in person at a studio. Okay, equipment. So I think this is the thing that everyone gets the most stressed out about. So I just want to start by saying that if you have a decent camera on your phone that can film in 4K, I would highly recommend filming in 4K. I have this theory, I might be talking nonsense, but I have this theory that YouTube actually pushes 4K videos over and above any other quality. I don't know, that I might just be like literally talking out of my arse there, but that's just my theory. But either way, whether they push it or not, I think for your viewer, 4K is just going to give them a better experience. And you do want it to feel smooth when it's a movement thing, because you're moving around all the time and you don't want it to feel jarring. So that being said, if you have like a modern iPhone, like one of the newer iPhones, I don't really know about Androids, but if you've got a decent camera on your phone and it can film in 4K and you have space, because it will take up a lot of space on your phone, whilst it's on there, you can get it off quickly, that'll be fine. I think like I stressed initially that, oh, I need to go and get like one of those big Sony cameras or Canons. And whilst now I'm at the stage, because I've been doing it for quite a while, where, you know, me having one of those cameras just makes sense, it really wouldn't have made sense the first time I started putting content out on the platform. So I would say just use your phone to get into the groove, to get you started, put it on the highest quality, buy a stand for either your camera or the phone, whatever you're using, and just make sure that you check it's level. It's something that really is a pet peeve of some people. But yeah, make sure it's level, and just use a stand all the time. In terms of like order of priority, in my opinion, the most important thing if you are teaching yoga on YouTube is sound. The sound quality is everything. And I actually put out one video where the sound was like in and out. Or the sound wasn't in and out, but like the gain was in and out. So it kind of sounded a bit like this every so often. And I'll leave this out while I explain this. And people commented on it. Like some of my regular subs were like, oh, I enjoyed the class, but like the sound was a bit in and out and it was a little bit distracting and the volume was changing. And it was basically an issue with my mic. I just put the gain on too high. So I think sound is the most important thing, because if you think about it, when you practice yoga in the studio or at home, you spend most of the time looking down on your mat and then listening to the cues than you do watching the teacher. Now, that being said, if you're teaching a beginner's sequence, sound and video is like visual is obviously key, because they're going to look up a lot. But for me personally, when I practice at home, if I'm following along with my teacher, I never look at her. I'm just listening to her. So sound quality is like, I think, the most important thing. And I use a Rode Wireless Go. I'm going to put in the description box a link to, I can't remember her name, but she's amazing. She basically is a bit of like an online teaching expert, and I'm going to put a couple of links to some of her videos that I think really help me, and they'll really help you. But one is like how to get your Rode working depending on the equipment you've got, and also how to use it with Zoom if you want to use it on your laptop. So she's really great. Like I think if you type in Rode Wireless Go review, she actually probably comes up pretty high in ranking on the search. So I'm going to put that in. But I think if you're going to invest in something as part of this
foray into yoga on YouTube, invest, oh, you okay, Bells? Invest in the sound quality, have a great mic, and then the rest is secondary. So that's sound. In terms of lighting, I'll show you my light. I'll kind of turn this all around and show you.
Okay, so here is the light. So the light came in like 3 parts. The first one is the like big umbrella thing there that you can see. And then it had the stand. And those I think are not that expensive. But then this, the Amaran 100D, this is the actual like light. And it's pretty cool. A friend of mine is a photographer and he recommended this. He uses this for his shoots. And it's great because you can adjust the light accordingly and it will give you just a wonderful light. I'll just show you how bright it is here. And then the inside, these can just soften the light. So, you know, if I show you the difference with it off, you can just see straight away that like it just powers so much light. So I really would recommend that. I think it's a great addition, but you definitely don't need it to get you started. And then this, I'll try and show it in front of the white. This is the headset that I was referring to. This is a Rode headset. It's just the basic headset. It just fits onto your head. They do different sizes and it was really cheap. So try it without, I would say, so that you're not spending money unnecessarily. But if you want to then grab yourself one of those, you can just get them off Amazon or on the Rode website. I'll put a link in the description.
I think lighting is kind of important, and you'll notice if you are someone that watches my videos, I don't tend to film a lot in this light. So this light is kind of dusk. It's like 3 p.m. Ugh, why is it so dark at 3 p.m? But like where we live, we have a lot of windows with a lot of natural light, but around this time in the winter, it does get pretty heavy. And I tend not to film when it's like this. I also tend not to film when it's super grey or super sunny. And sometimes you can't help it, and you will notice there are a couple of videos on the channel where I'm teaching and it's dark, like it's nighttime. I just don't like the look of that. I don't like it when the only light I'm getting is the artificial light from my light. But more importantly, before I had this super duper light, which was pretty expensive, I'll put a link to it below if you are wanting to get one. I just had one of those cheaper Amazon box lights. I will also link those because I think they're great to start out with, but they're only good when you also have a bit of natural light to help you. They just sort of add to the light. They're not going to give you the amount of light you need for a really nice quality looking video. So I would say that like sound is priority, then the lighting. Try and have good lighting and just use a lot of lamps if you don't want to go and spend anything, or buy some of these cheap ones on Amazon. They are pretty good, like to get you going. And then worry about the actual image quality, because unlike a gamer or a vlogger, people aren't sat like staring and watching you intently like that. They're moving with you. And then how to edit. So again, you can go to town on this. Like you could get, So we already had Premiere Pro on our laptop at home because my boyfriend does content creation because he's a musician. So we already had that, but we also had iMovie. So I edit on a Mac, I think a MacBook Pro, but anyway, a Mac. And any Mac will have iMovie available to download for free if it isn't already pre-installed when you got it. iMovie is free. I think it's so intuitive and easy to use. I'll put a link to a video that I used the very first time to like get me going on iMovie. It is so easy. There are filters on there, which I don't really use, but I do sometimes put a filter on if the lighting's been not what I like in the video, and I might lighten it a bit. But also they have some good like sound effect. You know, you can kind of help with background noise if you do have a lot of background noise. But mainly it's just easy to like cut bits. So I would say that if you're doing yoga teaching on YouTube, you're not doing fancy edits like maybe a vlogger would. I'm just going to put this back actually. So yeah, this just clips onto your clothing. You can also use the lav mic. I've recently started to use the headset. Just because
I was actually, when I was looking down a lot, which obviously you do a lot when you're moving, the volume was shifting all the time. I wouldn't say that I'm where I need to be with the headset. I'm not, sometimes you can hear me breathing very loudly in it, which I don't really like. So I think that's a bit of trial and error for me in terms of its positioning. But you could just clip this to you. What I would say is if you are a female teacher and you wear the high neck, which I do as well, the high neck sports bras, do not clip this to the top. The closer this is to the very bottom of your neck, it's fine when you're talking like this, but once you start to do this, it's going to change the sound. Billy, please don't stand on my iPad. It's going to change the sound and it's going to sound a bit kind of crazy. So if you do wear those kind of sports bras, either don't film in that or put the mic sort of here. So that's another little tip. Back onto the editing. You're not going to be doing like fancy editing, I would say, as a teacher. Like you're literally going to have to trim the beginning when you press play and trim the end when you finish. Maybe like me, if the dogs misbehave halfway through, or if someone knocks on the front door when I'm filming, it's game over because the dogs will go like mentor. I'll have to stop, get up and cut that out. But like it's very immature editing. It doesn't need to be super sophisticated. So for me, I find iMovie super intuitive, easy to use. This is a great example of where I will have to edit because she's barking. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it's super intuitive to use, I think, iMovie. So I highly recommend it if you do have a Mac. Now, you can use iMovie on your iPhone. I would not recommend that. I think trying to edit stuff on your phone I wouldn't want to be messing around with that. But, if that's the only thing that's available, then it's certainly an option. You just need to, it's probably just going to be a bit more fiddly. I've never tried it on the iPad because I don't need to. I can just transfer the data to the Mac and then do it on the Mac, but you probably could edit on the iPad easily as well. So I would say if you're an Apple user, go use iMovie. I think it's great. If you've got Premiere Pro, great, use that. I found it it's too fancy for me. It's got so many different options that I don't need. The editing I'm doing is literally cutting off the end, both ends, and maybe something in the middle where I've had to stop for a reason. So I don't need something as sophisticated as Premiere Pro. The final thing that I would mention is that YouTube has now, in YouTube Studio, which is something you get once you create an account as a creator, YouTube Studio does give you the ability to upload your raw edit and edit within YouTube Studio. They've got a new feature called Editor. I have used it a couple of times. It's nowhere near as good as iMovie because it's a lot more fiddly and it's less intuitive. But if you don't have editing software, you don't have a Mac, you don't want to buy editing software, and you're just chopping off the ends, then it's a great option. So I will put a link to a video on like how to use it because I personally was like, what am I doing with this? I thought I'd give it a go just to see if it sped the process up, but it doesn't. So that's equipment. In terms of timing, if you're filming in 4K and if you're doing anything over 10 minutes, which a lot of classes might be, unless you're doing short tutorials, you just need to bear in mind that when you upload that to YouTube, it then needs to process within the cloud, and that will take a different amount of time depending on lots of factors, like how busy YouTube is, and also just how big your video is in gig. So if you are uploading a big 4K video, like a 1-hour class, don't expect to be able to upload that at, say, 3 p.m. and launch it at 4. You could, but the quality will be low because YouTube is still trying to process the video. Also, the upload time will really depend, obviously, on your network connection, but also on how busy YouTube is. So I tend to bulk upload. So I will tend to have 3 or 4 classes in my head. I'll film them in one hit. So I usually do 30 to 40 minute classes. So I'll just do all 4. And then I'll just edit one by one, and as soon as the edit's ready, I'll upload it. And some classes might sit in the back end as private for weeks before I launch them, because that's the way I like to do it. If you're doing it more kind of on the fly, like, you're going to film on a Monday to launch on a Wednesday, you just need to bear in mind that this processing time can take quite a long time if you've recorded in a high quality video, which I highly recommend that you do. So yeah, just be aware of that. Like, and also when you get started, I would say like maybe get 4 or 5, edit them, upload them one at a time, and then have them ready to go so that you're ready to go. When you actually upload your video to YouTube, there's a couple of things you need to probably consider. One is I always upload them as private videos, and then I schedule them. I schedule them for 9 a.m. every Friday because YouTube likes you to be consistent. It's a bit like any social media app where we're told to be consistent and know what time your audience wants. So pick a day of the week, and if you're going to do one upload a week, just pick the same day, roughly the same time, and pre-schedule your video. Then you can forget about it. So like I'll have videos scheduled for the next 5 weeks and I'm not thinking about it. And sometimes like I'll see that a video has gone up and I'll be like, oh, what one was that? And I'll rewatch it and be like, oh yeah, it's that one that's all about like hamstring strengthening or something. So I highly recommend that because I think it can become a chore if otherwise you're filming like every single week, and it can take a while to like get the setup, get your lighting, test your sound, do a test run, a little clip. Like that can be tedious if you're doing that on like a regular basis. I'd rather just get it done once and have a few videos that I can work with. And then on that, just consider music. So there is a ton of free music on YouTube that will not have copyright claims on it, but you have to be really careful. Like I used to put music on and now I just don't, but I do often link to a Spotify playlist so that if someone likes to move to music, which I do, they can just listen to my Spotify playlist. And that's way better than me trying to find lots of free stuff on YouTube. That can be really time consuming. I used to spend a lot of time trying to search for free like lo-fi sound. Then you've got to download it and you've got to add it on top of your video. What happens is when you upload that, YouTube will check it for copyright claims, and it's just, I personally think it's too much effort if you're a small creator like me. If I had 100,000 subs, maybe I would consider it. But I think like if you're around the 1,000 sub mark, then really people can just stick their own Spotify on or whatever. And you don't need to worry about facilitating that for them. So that's kind of the equipment and the prep. In terms of then uploading your video, so you've uploaded it, you've set it as private, now you need to work on it so it's ready within the app. So what I would say is you need to think about a title and a description that really reflects the class that you have put up. So if it's a tutorial, make sure you say that. Always put the time so it's obvious to people how long it is, I think, in the title and the description, because a lot of users on YouTube will just type in 40-minute yoga class or yoga under an hour. So have a think about that. And also just have a think about like how you can use, you get 500 characters or words, I think, in the description box, and actually it's probably a lot more than that. But use that to tell people what they can expect, what props they might need for the class, and also link to other videos that you have, because then you're just building a catalog for somebody to really invest in you as a teacher and be like, oh, okay, so this is a tutorial headstand. Now I want to see, have they got a tutorial on Pincha Mayurasana, let's say. So use the description box, link out to other videos that you've done, link out to other channels. I frequently will do that. I'll say like, oh, this is like I'm doing on this video, I'm linking out to other people that have done it better than I will. So really use the description box and make sure your title makes sense. I use TubeBuddy, which is a plugin. Most creators use that. You don't need to get going. Maybe look at that as like a phase 2 once you've got a few videos up and running. But that will help you to look for keywords that have a decent amount of search and that it thinks you can rank in the search for. And then kind of that brings me on to consistency or growing your channel. So I know a lot of you that have asked me to do this video just want to be able to stick videos up for your existing clients and students. That's great. So you kind of maybe you're not interested in growth. For me, I wanted to build like a little community on YouTube, which, I do have like so many people that regularly practice with me on YouTube that are all around the world, and it's really beautiful. So to do that though, they've got to find you. And so the key things that I would advise is it's really tempting when you start your channel. I did it. This is one of the things I would not recommend. So it's really tempting to ask everyone you know to subscribe to you. And I think on something like Instagram, TikTok, I don't know about Facebook, but I think that that's an okay strategy, because ultimately, like, if somebody's going to follow you on Instagram and you put a reel up that is 13 seconds, they're likely to watch it and they may or not interact with it, like whether they do yoga or not. You know, like I have lots of friends that follow me on Instagram, follow my yoga page, and they don't do yoga, but they'll be like, oh, that's cool, and they'll like or comment or whatever. So you're getting engagement. If the same people, so like your dad or whatever, subscribes to you on YouTube, that is a totally different game. Like you might be asking them to sit through a 30-minute video and they don't do yoga or whatever it is you're putting out there. So are they going to? So basically, I think that can be negative to the channel. So when I first started, I really quickly got 200 subs, but nearly all of them were like friends and family that I'd asked to subscribe. And most of them don't do yoga and have no interest, despite, you know, me trying to get them to, have no interest in doing that. And so basically YouTube is showing them my video every Friday when they open the app. But because they've just subscribed to like do me a favor with my sub count, they're not engaging with my content. So I think that YouTube actually sees that and thinks, well, you obviously are not putting out content that your subscribers want. And that's because you don't have the right subscribers for your niche, and your niche is movement and yoga or whatever it is. So I would really stay clear of that, and I would just allow, if you've got students that you teach locally or over Zoom, tell them about your channel. They are the people you want. So I have loads of students that come to me in person that also will do my online classes on YouTube. Great, they are exactly the kind of people that you want to tell about your channel, because they are yogis. They're going to want to do your classes. But, you know, like my dad subscribes to me and he never watches my videos. He doesn't do yoga. I mean, this will be a great test. Dad, if you watch my videos, you will watch this video and you will comment on this video. I bet you guys, he does not watch this video. And so, if anything, he's kind of hurting the algorithm for me in some way, because YouTube's like, oh, this subscriber never watches their stuff. Maybe they're not putting out the right content for their audience. So she's wet now, so she's like wiping herself on me, which is not nice. So yeah, try not to just go hunting for subscribers. Allow it to just grow organically. A lot of the advice on YouTube, like there are millions of videos on how to grow on YouTube, and none of them are really relevant, I don't think, for someone that's trying to do something educational like a yoga teacher. And so I think you've just got to tell the people you know, promote it on your other social platforms. So if you have a following on Instagram or TikTok, promote your videos. I used to do that every week. Every week I would like put out that I had a new class on YouTube, and I just don't bother anymore, because actually like a lot of my YouTube following don't follow me on Instagram. Like they're very separate platforms, and you need to treat them as very separate platforms. Like it is no skin off someone's nose to just watch your reel and like, because you're asking for 20 seconds of scroll time maybe. It's another thing to ask someone to sit through a 60-minute class and like and comment. Like if they're not into yoga, they are not going to do that. Another tip is maybe if your dogs are wet and annoying, don't let them sit with you when you're doing these videos. So yeah, I think that's everything. I think they're all the hints and tips. If I think of anything more, I'll probably do a part 2, but this definitely, hopefully, would help anyone just starting out as a teacher on YouTube, and hopefully will help you with like advice on the equipment and, you know, things like the editing software and the setup. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Don't worry, my regular crew Friday class will be out on Friday as normal. And yeah, let me know if you want to know any more about teaching on YouTube. Drop me a comment, let me know how this video went for you. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you.